pizza time.
What's up, guys? It's Zero Sev coming with a review for the recent Marvel Limited series Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, I am going to do a spoiler review and kind of do an episode by episode breakdown. So we're going to go ahead and start with episode 1. And episode 1 actually starts with a whole action sequence where Sam is going up against George St. Pierre, Batroc. Again, which is a nice touch for the series, you know, keeping the whole world connected and everything. We have a new character introduced named Torres. He's kind of introduced as Sam's on-the-ground sidekick. Sam goes ahead and saves a hostage in a drawn-out action sequence here, where he's flying through the air, and there's a helicopter that the hostage is being taken in. They jump from helicopter to helicopter. It's a really nice sequence. Then we get a scene where the two of them, that being Torres and Sam, are repairing Sam's equipment, and they're gaining intel on who's going to be the main villains of the show, the Flag Smashers. And then we start getting flashbacks to Sam giving up the shield instead of taking it on after he was given it by Captain America. And while that's going on, we see that Bucky is in therapy. We find out that Bucky was pardoned for being the Winter Soldier and was allowed to return to America as long as he went to therapy and then remained available for active duty as well. There's kind of a bit of a blind spot there. They do refer to Bucky as a sergeant at one point in the series, so he is shown to be still in the military and a commanding officer of some sort. The initial therapy scene is kind of slow, but it does correctly establish Bucky's inner turmoil, and we can see him trying to atone for his actions with the families of the victims, but he is unable to actually do it in some situations. Now, we do also get introduced to Sarah, who is Sam's sister at this point, and this is where we cut back over to Sam, and the series begins diving into the repercussions of the snap and the effects it's had on normal people's daily lives. Now, Sam's sister Sarah had to take over the family business and basically has been keeping it together, but barely. It looks like they're going to have to sell the family boat soon to get out safe. And looks like with half the help and half of the man that they had before, it's not like they're able to just do it with ease. They're having a bit of a struggle right now. And the power shift that's happened for people from returning from the snap and the need to handle their returns and their rehoming is just causing a great deal of stress on the world right now. It is a really nice idea to kind of put the ethical quandary of your entire show on this type of issue. So I do want to go ahead and commend them for that. But it does try to give you the classical kind of older Avengers ethics vibe with Sam, because he's very good-natured. But he also was snapped. Him and Bucky were both snapped. So he's coming back with that pre-snap mentality, thinking the way the world used to be, right? And it's kind of getting hit with the changes of the way it was while he was gone. Now, we get a scene where Sam and Sarah go to the bank and they try to get a loan so that they can put some money into the boat before selling it, get some repairs done. But the clerk there, it looks like they're not able to get things done. There's some new policies going on. Things have changed since the snap, so they're not just able to get the loan like they thought they were. And Sam's not able to use his Falcon Avengers weight the way he thought he was going to be able to. Now, I do want to also state that the show does steadily get more racial as it progresses. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be part of that narrative, because the clerk does show to be a fan of Falcon. It's not like a later scene where he has to be reminded that it's Falcon. He knows, he wholeheartedly is like, hey, can I get a picture with you? I am a big fan, that whole thing. So I'm not sure if this is supposed to be part of the whole racial tones for the series or not. But I do want to go ahead and put that in. After that, we see our buddy Torres is doing some recon on the Flag Smashers, and we see him get knocked out pretty bad. Superhuman curve stomp. It really didn't look like he was going to survive that, but lo and behold, he does, and he was able to give Sam the info on the Flag Smashers. And then the moment everyone went crazy for happened. They gave us a little bit more of a grisly looking Captain America, and then that kills episode 1. Now, to be honest, I do believe that this is a little bit of a more like mortal Wolverine approach to the Captain America. I know it's John Walker, and that after finishing the show and just stewing over his performance, I honestly think that the best description I could give for John Walker's character in this show is more of a grisly, underpowered Wolverine take at Captain America, because it's kind of the way that character is built up, or even the Punisher. It's kind of like a mixture of those characters, and then given the Captain America mantle. Now, that completes episode 1 for us. Episode 2 comes out, and we get right into John Walker. It turns out that he is essentially he's the main character of this episode for sure, and he's essentially the third protagonist of the story. We do get little hints at his backstory here and there. He is at a football field. He's in the locker room right now waiting to do the press conference. His wife walks in on him in the locker room to talk with him and try to give him, a bit of a confidence boost, a bit of a pep talk. I didn't know that this was his wife. I don't see that it gives us any indication that this is his wife this early on. Later on in the series, they do go and just straight up say, this is Mrs. Walker. So, hey. But Walker's partner, Lamar, walks in and takes over the pep talk. And then Captain America goes out and tries to give a good amount of charisma to the crowd. He's generally well received in that bit right there in that press conference. And then we cut over to Sam and Bucky beginning their investigation of the Flag Smashers. Now, a little note that I'd like to make is that Sam and Bucky both come back from the blip once again, and so now they're basically in control of their own government op. At no point do we really see that anyone oversees them straight up. There's no direct authority figure over them that we're given. Sam just kind of starts running missions with Torres, and then starts running missions with Bucky as well. So, and they're using Air Force property and government property and all this shit. So, I'm not really sure on that. That one was kind of weird. But they find out that the Flag Smashers are supposed to be hijacking some medicine, so they go and try to stop them, only to find that they are super soldiers. Now, I do believe that this was kind of the slowest paced episode of the show, because even with this fight scene, everything up till now with this episode has just created more questions than answers, and it's not really given any direction with any bit of like major force. It's kind of just more open-ended stuff to set up more of the rest of the series. Sam and Bucky jump onto the truck. It's an 18-wheeler. So Sam and Bucky jump onto the trailer of the 18-wheeler. Bucky gets inside of the trailer. A teenage girl who looks to be between the ages of 15 and 18 years old is sitting in the back of the trailer. She's about 5'6". She stands up and she kicks Bucky back into the street, and then they have a fight scene with the Flag Smashers and Bucky and Sam. Now, she looks pretty young, and she's 5'6", and she just like straight kicked Bucky out of the back of this trailer. So she's supposed to be pretty powerful, but I gotta be honest, it was very difficult ever throughout the whole series for me to look at this little girl and be like, yeah, this makes sense why she's here, because it just does. It's just like, I don't know what it was with casting, but all the Flag Smashers around her look to be like twice her age. Like all the dudes are like looking like they're in their 30s and shit, and like adults, like grown adults, and she's a 5'6". If I'm not mistaken, in real life she's like 20 years old, but she looks pretty young. They got her playing a little young in this, so she's looking real young. She's looking like 15, 16 years old, and it's just a little insane to look at. Towards the later episodes, they do go and like get real nice with their choreography, but it's just, some of it just looks really unbelievable. Like, I could understand if she's punching like normal people like this, but when it's people who should be able to take a punch or take this hit, and she's just casually ragdolling people, it's really insane to look at, because she just doesn't look like she fits the size. Then we get Captain America, John Walker, and Lamar coming to aid Falcon and Bucky. Essentially what happens is that whole fight gets shredded into nothing, and then our four protagonists walk away and don't like each other. Uh, at this point, we start getting cuts to Karli, the leader of the Flag Smashers, the little girl. We find out that the leader is that little girl.
No shit.
So then it really becomes a little bit more unbelievable because you have this 16 to 18-year-old girl who looks 16 to 18. I mean, hey, even if we broaden this to she's like 16 to 20 years old, right? And she's leading dudes who are like 30, 35. Some of these dudes are like big. They've got full beards. They're bald. You know what I'm saying? Like these dudes, they're not young. So it's like, why? How do you know these people? Why are you cool with them? How are they following you? There's this older white woman who looks to be in her 40s who constantly is like, why is she trying to do all this evil shit? Like Karli, the little girl. And it's like, yo, are you sure you want to go and just like start killing people? And it's like, these people are adults. No one's questioning this little girl. No one's like, why the fuck are you doing this? You know what I'm saying? So there is a bit of a weird thing where it's like, yo, some of these people are adults. Y'all should like talk to this girl and like try and stop her from being a evil person for no reason. But no one does. And so that's just one of those weird things that I feel happens. I think honestly we see like once where she does something and then one of her friends is like, why did you do that? There were people in there. I think we're just supposed to accept that at that point she's too powerful and everyone else is just afraid of her. But once again, she's a superhuman teenage girl who's a leader of a movement of supposed to be thousands around the world. They develop an app themselves. She's spouting some purist bullshit about how it was all better when there were less people, but never really giving a realistic way of approaching it, just being theoretical with like her approach to real life and then using a super serum to achieve it, which doesn't follow your own theology. So I'm not sure what your point is that you're trying to make with this. So they run up to a group of their followers who's supposed to be housing them, and you find out that not only do they have an app, they are essentially using it as an underground railroad for the resistance, and the app is just publicly accessible to anyone, and that's probably a terrible idea when you think about it for more than 5 minutes. But the followers are incredibly devout to the group because they are giving them medical supplies and food and just things whenever they can. So they are happy to help now in return, right? So Karli gets a death threat at this point by an unknown. Once again, this is a spoiler review, so spoiler. I believe that this unknown was supposed to be Sharon Carter, aka the Power Broker, due to the later events of the series. And she tries to shrug the death threat off and talk to her group. But you can already tell that at this point, not everyone is on board. They just went and had to like fight Captain America, Falcon, the Winter Soldier, the new Bucky Lamar, you know what I'm saying, the new sidekick to Captain America, and so they're really starting to feel like maybe we're not on the right side. Some of them are starting to feel like that. You can see it. They never really go into it. There's never like a delve deeper into any other character other than Karli on the Flag Smasher side, but you can kind of see in some of their reactions that not all of them are really on board. So cut to Bucky and Sam fighting over why Sam didn't keep the shield again. This leads to a good interaction between them where Bucky wants to steal the shield, but Sam knows what that life is like. He talks about how Sharon is still excommunicated and how Steve and Sam were on the run for 2 years. Now, I do think that this is a point where the series is nodding to itself to say that she's going to be in the series, as well as who was that unknown caller or unknown person with the text messages. It was probably her type of situation. Now, at this point, Bucky decides to tell Sam about the black super soldier that America turned into a guinea pig for 30 years. And it's actually extremely touching because you're seeing that Bucky is not only trying to atone for what he's done, but for the larger part of what he was a part of. Not to say that he was an influential part in like the super serum program and all that shit, but he does try to go and like start atoning for it, because it's like, well, I helped keep it going because I actually was a successful, and so on and so forth. And so Bucky introduces Sam to Isaiah. Isaiah also at this point is an older gentleman, so after a brief interaction, he doesn't want to talk about it that long and asks him to leave. Now at this point, this is where the first real racial moments of the series that can get really stapled down for sure occur. Sam is upset and angry about why he didn't know about Isaiah, one, why Isaiah was in prison, two, and just why he was treated the way he was in general. Okay, so at this point, I personally believe that what we're supposed to see in Sam is that he's conflicted about being Captain America himself, because partially Captain America is a super soldier, right? And it's like, well, there's certain things I just don't have. So at this point, he feels like Isaiah should have become Captain America when Cap was in the ice, but doesn't know why he was thrown in jail and tested for 30 years instead. Sam and Bucky are having this conversation, and Sam is getting upset about it as he's trying to, you know what I'm saying, like get these questions out and get this understanding. And the police pull up on Bucky and Sam because Sam is starting to yell at this point. Now, at this point, Sam does continue to yell. The police get up and they're like, hey, what's going on? And Sam yells at them a little in disappointment. And what happens next is really, really one of the greatest things that I could see. What happens is the cops get out and immediately go at Sam as if he was attacking Bucky in some way, shape, or form, or aggravating Bucky. Sam immediately is like, no, and is not hostile, but you get what I'm saying, upset, and clearly upset. It's not that he's not being compliant, but he's aggravated. And you have aggravated him more by the way you've approached him. They ask Bucky if Sam is bothering Bucky, and Bucky rightfully immediately goes, no, do you know who this guy is? And this is one of the first signs that even though they're arguing and you can see that they don't agree on things, there is no way in the world these guys aren't friends and they wouldn't stick up for one each other and be down for each other and all that. It's one of the best moments of the series, I think, in these early episodes. This may be what I feel is the slowest paced episode, but this is some of the best content of the show for sure. All of the Isaiah storyline, everyone is really in love with that stuff. But I honestly think the way Bucky stands up for Sam in this interaction right here, this was really heartwarming. And while Bucky does this, the second cop comes to the first one and has to pull him to the side real quick and let him know that Sam and Bucky are Avengers. The first cop immediately changes the way that he was interacting with Sam and apologizes and states that he didn't recognize him without the goggles. And then those two cops go and turn and run to what are approaching police officers. There was a backup that was coming and stuff like that. And they immediately go and like flag them down and turn those officers away and are like, hey, everything's fine. These are the Avengers. It was a bad call, stuff like that. But Bucky then states he didn't tell people about Isaiah because he had already been through enough. And as that conversation is happening, the police then state that Bucky has a warrant out for his arrest because he missed his court-mandated therapy. At this point, we jump to the station. They're taking Bucky in. Sam comes down to the station, but John Walker and Lamar walk in as well. And it looks like John Walker just straight up got Bucky pardoned for the whole situation, is getting him released straight up, no more therapy, and is going to have some type of authority over Bucky to get him released and seen as just a normal citizen, straight up, but like a sergeant still. And the therapist has to do like a final session real quick and then authorize the release. So the therapist calls for that last session, but then demands that Sam come as well. And then Sam and Bucky do a little bit of arguing about the shield, where Bucky states that he agrees with Steve and that Sam should be the new Captain America, and that if Sam doesn't agree and thinks that Steve is wrong about Sam being worthy of being Captain America and believes that Steve could be wrong, then that makes Bucky question whether Steve was right about Bucky, and that scares Bucky most, which is an incredibly powerful point for the series. and one of the best parts of the series. Now, after that, they get released. They go outside, they talk to John and Lamar, and they go their separate ways. They don't even work together. They go their separate ways. Then we have a Flag Smasher scene where one of the Flag Smashers decides to sacrifice themselves so that the rest of the Flag Smashers can take what they were taking and get away clean. After that happens, we cut back to Sam and Bucky, and then we get the drop for our next episode, which is that they're looking for a lead because they don't know where Karli is and they don't know what the Flag Smashers are doing. So they need a new lead, and because they know that they're super soldiers, they're going to go to the person who they think has the most information on that, which is Baron Zemo. So they go and they're going to set that up. There's no after credit scene for episode 2, so that concludes episode 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video here, guys. We're going to go and do 3 videos for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, 2 episodes each. That should get it done pretty fast. This video ended up being over 20 minutes long, so I didn't want to keep you here forever. So, if you liked it, like and subscribe. We'll be doing, more content like this, and we'll be doing comic book content as well. But other than that, thank you very much. You have a good day.